Hello, world, and welcome to the Data Mining Mike Adventure Diver podcast, where we adventure dive into interesting people and subjects. Our guest today is Dr. Ulil Amri. Ulil is a professor of anthropology and a leading expert in the world of ecological sustainability at Gonzaga University. He is a thought leader, international academic ambassador, and Indonesian environmental policy influencer. He has written several papers that have been published in prominent scientific anthropological journals. He is a noble activist, dedicated to improving the human condition. This is a fascinating podcast that covers a wide range of topics, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I enjoyed interviewing this phenomenal individual.
Hi, Data Manning Mike. Thank you so much, for this podcast. I love to tell about my story, my work, and I'm an Indonesian, and I've been here for almost 10 years, and I really love my work, my job as a professor in the Department of Environmental Studies. I teach Introduction to Environmental Studies, Digital Ecology, Environmental Justice, and Eco-Spirituality. So my work is basically about anthropology of environment, religion, and science and technology to some extent. So my research is actually about, I'm investigating the role of civil society organizations in Indonesia in dealing with climate change. Climate change is a real issue. It is, people are talking about it almost every day. And lots of, scientists have done wonderful research. They focused on investigating the role of government institutions in tackling climate change, and some other scientists, they investigate the role of market or business institutions in tackling climate change. We know lots of initiatives like solar photovoltaic panel, wind turbine, so on and so forth, nuclear power plant to some extent too. They're so wonderful, but less research have been done about the role of local communities. So this is the things that I am so interested in bringing to the world, if that makes sense. So I'm so interested in seeing how local communities, especially in Indonesia, producing renewable energy made of candle nut. So
Canola oil.
part of it is canola oil, palm oil too, and candle nut oil is another one. And my interlocutors in Indonesia, they are using candle nut oil. So there are two types of candle nut. The first one is edible one. If you mix it with food like beef curry and things like that, it is gonna be super delicious. But the second type of candle nut, it is toxin. It is inedible, but it is super great for renewable energy. And my interlocutors in Indonesia are so excited about these, and I've published several works about these cool initiative as well. So I feel like it is the right time to make the role of civil society organizations or local communities more feasible recently. They are doing something. They are so optimistic about tackling climate change as well, and provide renewable energy sources, because we are so highly and strongly dependent on fossil fuel. So
Dang. Well, that's a really good point to prove. I mean, we need a lot of sustainable sources. And well, right now, all right, cool. So Can you tell me more about the candle nut? How common is the candle nut in Indonesia?
Yeah. So people in Indonesia, they use candle nut just for cooking mainly. Not many Indonesians really know like this magic plant. That's what my interlocutors often mention to me. This candle nut can also, produce renewable energy or biodiesel, and it they start like plant this crop or candle nut, the second type of candle nut, right, that I mentioned before, the inedible one, about 15 years ago. But unfortunately, government institutions in Indonesia do not really provide like enough support to help like local communities to grow and develop like these renewable energy sources, and government are still interested in focusing on other renewable energy sources like solar, wind power, and maybe in the near future they're gonna focus on geothermal as well. Hydropower is also a thing in Indonesia. So yeah, and I see like the importance of these local initiative to be something interesting and more powerful in the future, because the yield is higher than other crops that many scientists usually promote, like Jatropha curcas and other crops that I can't remember like their names. So Jatropha curcas failed because the yield is less than expected. It was not economical or efficient. But from what I heard from my interlocutors, and I also talked to or had conversation with some researchers from 10 November Institute of Technology. It is like MIT here or Caltech here in the United States. So they convinced me that the yield is higher than other crops, except palm oil. But palm oil is a different kind of thing. It is problematic to use palm oil as a renewable energy source, because people are using it for food as well. Whereas this candle nut that I mentioned before, the inedible candle nut, it doesn't compete with food like demand. So it can be used solely or only for producing like biodiesel. And the yield is high, and they have done like several kind of like research, and they are super optimistic about this. And what they need is like support from the government to make like everything like works well in the future in terms of what do we call it in Indonesia, like permission or regulation to ease like the development of this thing. Yeah, but at the same time, we have to also be careful about the impact of biodiesel, because it needs to open a new land. It might be also harm biodiversity, and it also might to some extent cause social disruptions in terms of, when you open a new plantation area, you might be dealing with local communities, right? Are you gonna kick out these local communities? So there is another concern. Yeah, something like that, Mike.
So do these candle nuts, are they growing on a tree?
Yeah, it's like it is a fruit, actually, like
Okay.
like a fruit. Yeah, it is like a fruit, and once you planted it, you have to wait for about like 4 to 5 years to harvest. And like I said before, the quality of the yield is very good. It has been proven by 10 November Institute of Technology, a research institute, very well-known research university or institute in Indonesia. And they are trying to open as many like plantation area as possible. From what I heard, my interlocutor said that they can transform arable land or dry land to become more productive land, because the roots of these trees, these candle nut trees, can absorb water or create like water.
Kind of like an ecosystem in a desert.
Right.
Because of their ability to absorb.
Exactly.
That's cool.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's good for nature, for soil, for ecosystem, like you mentioned, and also at the same time it provides job for local people, local villagers who are interested in doing this business. So yeah.
So how tall are these candle nut trees?
Yeah, good questions.
Because you say candle nut, and my first thought is, okay, a tree that produces a nut.
Right.
And some sort of these nuts can be processed into an oil.
Yeah.
But no, it's a fruit.
Right, yeah. So when we look at like the actual trees, it's as tall as maybe mango tree.
Okay. So it's about 20 feet tall.
Yeah,
Okay.
20 feet tall, yeah, kind of like that. Yes.
And then they take, you said like 5 to 7 years to fruit, and this fruit is a non-edible fruit, but you can take the fruit and turn it into biodiesel.
Exactly. Yes, it is even less than 7 years, maybe 4 to 5 years. Yep. And also, it's very shady. Indonesia is super warm or even hot recently because of climate change. So lots of people, after they grow like this plant and become like bigger, and they usually use it for what is it called? Sitting down, relaxation under the tree.
Oh, okay,
like
yeah,
that.
just to chill
Chill
under
out,
the tree.
yeah.
Provide shade for people to get out of the sun, which is really important.
Right.
In a place like Indonesia, where it can be really hot.
Yep. And even without any chemical process, this candle nut oil, you just press it. Use any type of equipment to press it to get the oil. You can use that oil directly to power any diesel engine without any chemical process. But for a better product, you need to do like esterification and trans-esterification processes. So basically, you mix it with alcohol and some other, chemicals, and to make it like more useful or produce higher, better quality that do not cause corrosion in the engine. I hope that makes sense.
Okay, gotcha. So
yeah.
my first thought intuitively is if you squash a fruit, it makes an alcohol.
Yeah.
And so this sort of kind of like ethanol in a way. So it's this high sugar content, and it's good enough to just run a diesel engine.
Right.
That's kind of cool.
That is cool.
The average farmer or a person out living in a rural area out there could use this, just the raw juice of it, to run their own engines to power.
Yes, to power anything, right? Yeah. That is why this is called as like community-based energy making, because it is initiated by this community, local community in Indonesia, and so for pragmatic reason, they are gonna use like this energy too in the future. If something happen, we're now knowing that we're living in a energy crisis too. So it is a kind of interesting thing to see how local community, and I believe there are lots of local communities too that have this kind of initiative. We just don't know it. That is why my role as an anthropologist of environment, science and technology, to make like this kind of initiative visible in academia. And then thank you so much for inviting me to talk to this podcast. This is one way that we can make like this initiative more visible to the world. And I believe there are so many like local communities who have done like similar thing. So yeah, government, they're doing great job. Market, of course, they're doing lots of great jobs as well. They're transitioning from old fossil fuel to renewable energy sources, like I mentioned before: solar, nuclear, geothermal, hydropower, wind turbine, so on and so forth. And we haven't like really seen like local communities initiatives, right? So I think that is my main kind of like um, um, excitement,
Yeah, that's a good passion project to get around. That you are using your station here in America to try to influence globally communities down at that level in Indonesia any way you can, and that's really awesome, as you should.
Right. Yeah, and it's also good to like bring closer like a discussion between global north and global south, where we only have like one earth. And when we do our carbon footprint calculation, me myself, I need for about like 4 earth if I want to continue my lifestyle. And so I always urge my students to, we need to do something, anything that we can do. Maybe we can reduce our, consumption that helps to save our earth. And like I said before, when I calculate my our own carbon footprint, it's still a lot, and I need to do something more in the future individually. If I continue like my current lifestyle, I need like at least 4 earths to live. In fact, we only have like one earth, so we should like work together and think about what are some of the future initiatives that we can do to I mean, like protect maybe, or preserve, or preserve our lovely earth. So this is like a collaborative like work, and I'm hoping that in the future we can do something like more concrete between like global north and global south, because we are in the global north. Our demand on things, resources, also cause like maybe environmental kind of issues or concerns.
Yeah.
I hope that makes sense. Well, yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Okay, so yeah, it's a really important thing with global initiatives. So how many acres of candle nut does it take to sustain? You probably may or may not know this. To sustain like the one family.
Yeah, that's a good question. I have to like figure it out. I'm gonna visit my field site again soon in the future. Talk to my interlocutors more, because they are planting these plants in a new place in Java and Nusa Tenggara. So yeah, that is a good question. I don't know how to answer it right now, but yep.
Okay, you said commuters
Uh,
or what?
Community.
No, it was communities. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. I mean, you said some. You've mentioned these people now. I think they're like the people you liaise with, but you called them something else.
Oh, interlocutors.
Interlocutors.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never heard that word before.
Yeah, it is very I think like anthropological term, and one reason why we use like the term interlocutors means we do not treat people or local community whom we worked with as passive like respondents. We are constantly work with them, talk to them, have conversation with them. They are not only again our source of information or source of data, but they are our teachers too. They teach us about life. They teach us about being optimistic in this world, living in this world, how to solve everyday problems, including like these environmental issues or problems. So I learn a lot, from them. It is why, as an anthropologist, we position our informant as subjects who are active, who are wonderful, very inspirational, and they teach us a lot of things. So we are making like this work or research together. They are not like just passive objects or something like that. They are active participants. They shaped our research or my research, and I learned a lot from them. So that is what interlocutor means.
Cool. Cool. So they're experts in anthropology for the local experts. They're local experts.
Yes. They know what they are doing. They've been living in this place for such a long time. They know like their environment. They know what kind of resources they need to use to sustain their daily life for their daily needs. And I am just an anthropologist. I'm from outside. I'm an outsider, right? I talk to them, study them, and at the same time, they talk to me. They teach me too. So I think this is the perspective that anthropology can also be useful for many us in academia. We should be humble when we visit any of our field sites, because lots of things that we do not know. The things that we know in academia are mainly from the books, journal articles, and other academic sources. But our world changes constantly every day. So the best guru or the best teacher are everything, everyone, even animal. They teach us a lot too. Nature, they are our teachers too. They are our interlocutors as well. So I'm so grateful to be an anthropologist of environment, because it really helped me to better understand my position, my existence in this world. I'm just a small entity among these millions or even billions entities. So
That's a good way to put it. When was the last time you went to Indonesia?
Oh yeah, I visited Indonesia last winter break.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Collected some information again. I'm an anthropologist. I'm a researcher. I'm a teacher. I love to, update my data, and I am trying to also study the impact of nickel
Okay.
mining and
Yeah.
Potentially
Yeah.
lithium mining too in Indonesia, because like I said before, we are living in a global world. One Earth, one activity from one place is going to affect other places in the world. So our demand on electric cars are increasing recently because we love, eco-friendly like cars or vehicles. But at the same time, we have to also be careful about the impacts of how it is created. For example, the battery, the lithium, the nickel. Where does it come from? It comes from somewhere, which means that we have to dig, we have to mine, and that is not going to be without cost, social cost or environmental cost. Lots of cost will be generated from that kind of new mining activities. So, and in my hometown in Southeast Sulawesi is now are like the hotspots for nickel mining industries or practice or businesses, if you will. So yeah, lots of interesting things. Of course, it created jobs, and but at the same time, yeah, we have to also make sure that the environmental impacts will be reduced as minimum as possible. So we love if our economy grow, but at the same time, we have also want to make sure that environment is not gonna be hurt more, society or social too, like local communities too. Yep. So yeah, that's a super interesting thing. I'm trying to like, and I'm going to present like these preliminary finding in a conference that will be held in June or July in the Association for Environmental Studies or Sciences or something like that. So I'm excited, Mike.
Yeah, that's good. That's always good that you get to take your hard work and you get to take your findings and present them in front of people and just say, hey, this is what it is.
Yep.
This is what I think. Tear me apart. If you want to come at me with your own thing or whatever. But I think it's fun. And I'm really happy for you. You know what I was thinking about though? A lot of things were racing through my mind. One of which was the monkeys. Tell me about the monkeys.
In Indonesia?
Yeah, and how do the monkeys react to these candle nut?
Oh yeah, actually, right, yeah. Orangutan, like as the name of this specific species that have been impacted by, to some extent maybe candle nut, but mainly by palm oil. We are living with all palm oil products. After we wake up, we need like these paste. Palm oil is in there. We do our breakfast, we prepare our breakfast. Palm oil is in there in the cereal, and when we cook, again, palm oil is in there, right? So our cosmetics and later when we take a bath, palm oil is in our soap, in our shampoo, in our chocolate, everything, our food. Like we are so dependent on like these crop, and that is why it has created like a quite serious environmental impact, especially in Kalimantan, where the population of orangutan actually exists.
I didn't even realize orangutan existed there.
Yeah.
I thought they only existed in Africa for some reason in my head.
Wow. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, that's cool. The more you learn.
Yeah, they existed, and they've been in there for such a long time, and their life are now endangered because of new palm oil plantations. Our demand from other parts of the world, not only in the global north, but also the global south itself, from China, from India. These demand leads to the opening of new palm oil plantation area that in turn will affect like the habitat of the orangutan. When the orangutan like are threatened because of many things, when we transform a wetland or peatland or forest into become like plantation area, it reduces biodiversity to become like a monoculture plantation area. So lots of orangutan killed because of the land clearing things from forest to plantation area. The easiest, the cheapest way to clear the land is to burn it through burning it.
Oh.
So that kills orangutan. Yeah, seriously, that kills orangutan, and also it affects neighboring countries like Singapore, Brunei Darussalam, Thailand, Philippines, especially Singapore, because it creates like forest haze, smoke that can cause lung cancer. So not only for orangutan that it cause a problem, but also human health as well. So yeah, it is a serious kind of thing. We need to really, really think about the way we consume like palm oil. There are some initiatives to change like this practice. Some institutions try to encourage like sustainable palm oil practices. When you buy products, you will see whether that product has sustainable palm oil certificate or not. So yeah, if you buy like this certified palm oil product, which it means that okay, it's pretty safe, a business that really kind of like care about the life of orangutan, and also it is grown ethically, environmentally friendly, so on and so forth. So yeah, one way to reduce the impact of bad palm oil practices is through buying like these certified palm oil products.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it seems like a really inefficient way it seems like really wasteful way to clear land is just to burn it and burn all the trees.
Yeah.
I mean, they could at least log them and have lumber, like, but whatever, but at least you're doing your part to voice your opinion on that. So is there any other smaller monkey species?
Not that I know of. I think orangutan is the main like endangered species right now that we need to really care about or pay attention to. Yeah, they're like us too. They're part of like these world species. They inhabit like this world, and they are sentient being too. They get hurt when we expand their territory. They get threatened. They got stressed and maybe depressed too, but I don't know much about that kind of thing. But from what I had like in my conversation with my interlocutors and colleagues in Indonesia, yeah, they kind of experience the same thing that we human beings experience when we got threatened by the destruction of our habitat or our ecosystem, because palm oil like exactly like it harms like their habitat. So yeah.
So yeah, and those are the most intelligent of the primate species is the orangutan, and I've seen some really cool videos on them.
Yeah. They are smart. I don't know much about like their like intelligence, but as far as I know, they are rational too. Rational means here, or intelligent too means here, that when we look at dictionary, it says something that a capacity to make a decision or adapt to a new environment. So in that case, if we follow like the definition or term about rationality or intelligence, they are capable of doing the things that we are capable of doing things. They respond to like thrive. They are trying to migrating to still survive. They react to like threats, so on and so forth. So yeah, so interesting. And this is also a kind of a new like research project that I'm thinking about. As an anthropologist or environment, I do also think that I should study animal kind of behavior, or animal culture even. And I'm pushing myself to better understand also like nature, trees, kind of like behavior or plants, because to some extent from what I read recently, they are intelligent like us, like animals as well, so they have capacity and capability to adapt to a new situation. Nature magazine published like 5 years ago, I think it was in 2017, trees moved north part of the United States because they felt like the southern part of the United States is getting warmer, has less water, so they move gradually to the north. How do they move? Well, lots of speculations, lots of research that we can learn from them. But what is interesting, and I'm still trying to better understand this, that like some people said that they are lifting like their roots from the less wet areas, and they expand other roots on the wet areas.
Okay.
And when they expand, the trunk move gradually too. So, which is really interesting when we look at how like these non-human things react to change, like climate change and environmental change. They are like us, like I mentioned before. They are an actor too. They are not passive. They are active. They have agentive capacity to react, adapt, and make a change. Wow, yeah, I was surprised when I read all of these kind of things. Interesting.
Yeah, that is intelligence. That's what a lot of very serious, deep thinkers in the world of AI talk about. Like, what is intelligence? Intelligence is
exactly
your ability to map your environment,
exactly,
and make predictions on the future. And so from what you're saying, and that's really, and I totally believe this, it makes sense on a micro level. I mean, you see it happening on a micro level. Why wouldn't it happen on a macro level with the trees? And you see it happening with tree lines, and you see it when you go a certain elevation too, at the alpine areas of mountains. The trees thin and they change shape and directions.
Right. Yeah, that's so cool, right? That is so cool. Yeah, and it makes sense, especially in the age of AI today. We know like a new entity, it's like becoming something else in the future, and that is what like Elon Musk kind of like talked before. Wow, they are going to have their own kind of like ability, creativity, agency to probably affect our world. Are we going to be ruled by them? We don't know yet, but probably they are going to develop like their capacity and capability to do so. They learn every time. They collect lots of information, and talking about AI, there is a wonderful professor named James Lovelock. So 2 years ago, I think 2019, 4 years ago anyway, he published a book titled Nova Scene. It is about AI capacity to collaborate with us to tackle or deal with environmental issues and climate change. He's the one who is super optimistic about AI capacity and capability in the future. They're not gonna threat us. They're going to be our collaborators, which is super, super interesting. I know many of us, we are quite worried about AI today. In academia, we're worried about, people are using ChatGPT for doing like assignments, essays, so on and so forth.
Yeah, how do you guys stop that? Because that's very hard to detect.
Right,
In any university that comes out and says, "Oh, we have AI content detection software," I don't believe them. No way. There's no way they have it right now.
Yeah.
Not at the university level. So yeah, it's changing the game.
It's
right.
changing the game.
Collaborative works. I did an entire podcast with ChatGPT. ChatGPT gave me the idea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, we're dealing with this kind of thing, but I feel like we need to incorporate ChatGPT in our academic system. It's like calculator.
Mm-hmm.
Several decades ago, some people like rejected it because they feel like, wow, this is a technology. We shouldn't use technology when we do our assignments. But then later, people accepted it. So ChatGPT is similar to that. Right now, maybe there are some tensions. Some people rejected it, but later, soon, they are going to accept it. And we should open like the possibility that our students will use ChatGPT to develop their essays, assignments, and papers. And I am so excited to see how it looks like in the future, and I believe that ChatGPT or AI in general will become a helpful collaborator and wonderful collaborator. We can make a better world with them. Yeah, they're non-human. They're gonna become something else in the future. Like I said before, we're gonna see like all of these non-humans are getting more and more interesting in the future. Not only AI, plants, animals, trees, so on and so on, and of course us human beings too. We evolve, we do, we change, we create these new things. They create us back. We become like something else in the future. So yeah, lots of wonderful things when we think about future, and yeah, anthropology teaches me a lot about that.
Yeah, no, that's a good way to put it, and it makes me think about, you talked about eco-spirituality.
Oh yeah.
And if there's sentience in something as in such as life, in all of the animals, and how do we replicate that sentience into machines? And right now it's really difficult to do. Right now it seems like there's a lot of great possibilities too, and there's a lot of computational drawbacks. Like it takes a lot of computational power to make GPT happen, ChatGPT. But
exactly.
But one thing I was thinking about was you mentioned animals. You're right. You should study animals. That's genuinely interesting. Like, how are humans and animals adapting sustainably? Because that's always been part of anthropology. I think even something as far back as the ancient Egyptians in mummifying cats to nowadays, how are humans living with their dogs, with their cats, with the orangutans in the jungle?
Yeah, and that is an interesting question. So we should not see them as subordinate. They're just like us. We're companion with them. We learn a lot from our dog. They're they live with us. They help us. Their ability to sniff, their sense of olfaction is super wonderful. They helps to to help us to find things that we forgot where did we put it. I can't remember. Okay, our dog, they can easily find it, right? There are some other like animals that are cool as well, and I'm thinking of, wow, do they have culture, or should we think about we both create culture today? Because so far we just neglect their existence. This is a new thing. And anthropology has not really talked about these things, and environmental studies too. So I hope someday in the future, I have some time to work on these and produce like more work, to invite others to think about like the agencies of these non-human entities, like animals, like dog, um, what else? Chicken, to some extent, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting concept too, because people tend to put these hierarchies on animals
Yeah.
as to how much they care about certain. Like no one seems to care much about. Well, no one has much compassion for less intelligent animals unless they're cute and furry and they have big eyes.
Yep. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. And this is the thing that we often talked in academia too. Are we still advocating for anthropocentrism, or we should think about a new framework? It has been discussed in about 30, 40, 50 years actually. Oh, maybe we are wrong when we say you know anthropocentrism. We are anthropocentric, or we are living in anthropocentric world. When we look at the capacity and capability of the non-humans, like I mentioned before, probably we should think about ecocentrism or biocentrism. And but yeah, we should have like more conversation about that, because many of our brothers and sisters and colleagues too, it is hard for them to understand this kind of like things. Yeah, more reflective, like heart to heart kind of discussion will help to have meaningful discussion. Well, it depends on them if they want to change their mind, but at least we have conversation, right? Yeah, meaningful conversation, because they have their own perspective too. If they feel like, oh, anthropocentrism is still, better today, well, that is okay. Yeah, it's still really hard, Mike, to change like what people think about the world. I sometimes feel like I want to make a change, but lots of people have different perception. Maybe they do not agree or disagree with me, so I have to accept that kind of thing too. I don't want to be like a weird guy in the middle of million or billion people on our earth today. But yeah, at least make this issue feasible. I mean, that will create like small gradual change. And the main purpose is we want to have like better, meaningful life, take care of each other, not only us here exist in this world, but also the animals, the trees, other entities too. So yeah, the thing that is most important in life is meaning.
Yeah, it makes me think about in Indonesia.
Yep.
The over-vegetated ancient kingdoms. Is there any like that, like out in the jungle? Like I know Sri Lanka has some. Like the ancient kingdoms that were made out of the stone temples that have been taken over, and like monkeys live in them and stuff, and they war over them.
Oh yeah, I think it's in Bali or something like that. Yeah.
Is that near your area, or is that a whole different part of the country?
It's a different island. Yeah, Indonesia.
All right.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So is there any ancient temples or any sort of stuff like that around there?
Oh yeah. Borobudur Temple. People call it like part of the seven wonders of the world. It was built, I can't remember exactly, thousands years ago. It's like Indonesian pyramid, like pyramid, Indonesian kind of pyramid. We don't know the technology, how they build it. It's like such gigantic, like temple, right, or thing or object. But yeah, people long time ago, they're as intelligent as us. They use unique, very cutting edge technology at that time too. And Yeah. So yeah, lots of like these kind of temples exist in Indonesia. We don't know how they build that, and we need more archaeologists to
Mhm.
reveal us, to study like how like these ancient people create that technologies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for those listening, could you explain to people the difference between anthropology and archaeology? They both involve humans.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah. So the main difference between these two is anthropology is dealing with human today in the present, whereas archaeology they're dealing with human in the past
Hmm.
through studying artifacts like old um, artifacts or materials and things like that. So yeah, that is the basic difference between the two. But anyway, we're in the same like discipline of anthropology. So archaeology is the branch, one branch is one branch within several branches of anthropology.
Okay.
We have linguistic anthropology, we have bioanthropology, we have archaeology, and cultural anthropology or sociocultural anthropology.
Okay.
Yep, yep, yep.
And so but you're more niche. You're more anthropology as it relates to sustainability.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And anthropology is expanding like its focus today. It's not only like studying human, but also animals, trees even. There is an anthropologist named Eduardo Kohn. He published a book several years ago. The title of the book is How Forests Think. So
Okay.
forests think according to him, but it's really interesting and quite difficult kind of book to read because it's super philosophical, super theoretical, and yeah. So yeah, and my work is dealing with sustainability, like you mentioned before. Yep.
Yeah, have you heard? There was this guy. I forget his name, but he's this mycologist who studies mushrooms, and he said that here in the Pacific Northwest, on the other side of the state of the Cascades, there is this massive. It's the largest living mushroom, and it consumes this huge area of the forest. But it's an underground fungus, but it's consuming. It's really cool. So and I think of that, and I think of okay, well then the trees are probably doing the same thing
Yeah.
at the same level. So do you ever dabble in cultural anthropology?
Like double.
Like you have any interest in like how technology changes our human behaviors?
Right. Yeah. 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 I'm think about it as well because technology is part of non-human too. So, I'm also interested in studying how like this inanimate entity affects our life. We created it, like computer technology, social media, and AI, and today they kind of create us back, right?
Mm-hmm.
They help us. We become heavily dependent on them. Without technology today, wow, it's super difficult to survive. We are constantly looking at our phone early morning when we wake up.
Mm-hmm.
Without it, we get lost. When we go somewhere, we need GPS and things like that. And I play guitar when I, set up my guitar, tune. I really need a tuner. Long time ago, I was quite confident with my own skill to tune my guitar, but now I lost that ability. So
Yeah.
is that cool? Oh well, the technology is cool, but I lost my natural skill to tune guitar. So lots of us are having like this kind of things too.
Yeah, no, that's
Right.
a good way to put it. Or I don't I can't do math. I have to rely on my phone.
Right. Yeah. Kind of thing. So yeah, it's power. Technology is super powerful. We created it. Today they are create us.
Mm-hmm.
We're something else right now. We feel like without them we can't do anything. And Donna Haraway, a philosopher of technology or historian of technology, he wrote a wonderful like essay few years ago or decades ago. She said that we're like cyborg today.
Mm-hmm.
We're, you know, we're both technology and
You got it. Yeah.
and human at the same time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's really interesting. Yeah, that is part of anthropological like study as well. Human, technology, nature, environment, and so on and so forth. Anthropology is a very broad like discipline. It can be used by many or almost all disciplines. Some anthropologists work with chemists. Some other anthropologists work with biologists. Some other anthropologists work with political scientists, theologians, so on and so forth. So anthropology can exist in any like discipline or department. You know.
Yeah, and so it seems like your specific field could just be put down to cultural anthropology and how technology is shaping Indonesia's landscape.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it is for the creation of new sustainable energy through the candle nut, or and so that's because of technology, because they need the candle nut because it runs really good in a combustion engine.
Yeah.
And then you brought up the conundrum to begin with, because that's why, well, if you go for an electric engine, then you don't need a combustion engine. But at the same time, you also brought up, and then you got to watch those big ugly pits that they're digging for the nickel and the lithium. And that brought up another thing that I thought of was, now I know it's a really big concern for my friends in the more from the developing countries in Africa, how China will come and the Chinese companies will purchase all this land and dig for lithium, dig for nickel, dig for whatever, build infrastructural things like maybe a bridge or a dam, put the country into a bunch of debt.
Interesting. Yeah.
I mean, is China doing that with Indonesia, or is Indonesia pretty well got other funding?
Yeah, that is interesting as well. They call it like debt trap, right? In Africa, they give you like money, and then when you cannot pay like the money, the debt, they trap you. So you have to accept like certain conditions, like they're going to invest in Africa and so on and so forth. They are going to mine or exploit like more resources, so on and so forth, because of the debt. They call it debt trap. In Indonesia, probably Indonesia is going to the same direction as Africa too, but I don't know much about it because it's still in early phase. China gives a lot of like money to Indonesia, like big loan, and once it depends on how well Indonesia will pay the debt. If they could pay the debt with its interest, they're gonna do well in the future. But if they cannot pay the debt, they will be trapped. They will be giving resources, accesses to China to mine, to exploit, invest, so on and so forth, like in Africa. I can't remember the name of these African countries, but yeah, from what I read, it happening. It is happening in Africa right now. So yeah, we don't know what is going to happen in Indonesia. Well, time will tell.
Yeah, well, and the thing is too, I don't think it's very sustainable on China's part to be doing that, because if they're investing in all these countries that, not saying Indonesia, but when they start expanding into all these other African countries that have less stable governments,
interesting, yeah,
that's they're making really risky loans at the end, so that's not very sustainable as a financial thing, but they're still continuing to do it.
Right, yeah, it is not, yeah, I agree with you, it's not financially sustainable, it is not environmentally sustainable too, from what I heard, from what I read. these new mining companies in Indonesia, like China owned or Chinese nickel mining companies in Indonesia, they're not doing a quite like a good job in in their like mining practices, because lots of like environmental degradations too, like lake, river, ocean has been polluted. And yeah, I think on the one hand, they have to also make sure that they're doing it in an environmentally friendly way. I mean, these mining businesses. And on the other hand, I think Indonesian government should also have like more or stricter kind of regulations to make sure that these investment, which is good for local economy, national economy, but at the same time, they have to make sure that the environment is not gonna be like degraded more. Because when I talk to my interlocutors, my friends, my family members back there in my hometown, it's so polluted right now. So lots of work need to be done.
Yeah, that's sad that it's polluted.
It is.
and and that's a thing that a lot of Americans just don't understand, is that how these that there's a certain standard here in America that we would never allow if the same thing was happening in Indonesia to happen here. That people would say, no, we aren't going to allow for all that pollution. We're not going to allow for the garbage heaps. We're not going to allow for the smell. We can't allow, and Americans have this sort of interesting idea, but at the same time, they're outsourcing that their lifestyle for their needs, be it, the palm oil and everything, or, and these developing countries are the ones that really are having the two worlds, the dichotomy of. Are you noticing a class change? Is there like an upper class, lower class? Is there like a class divide since industrialization in Indonesia?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe there is like a class kind of thing in there. Yeah, and maybe people love to, have like a more like modern kind of like lifestyle. They're trying to like copy like a Western kind of, or yeah, Hollywood is so popular in Indonesia, and recently, Korean drama, Korean music is also like super popular in Indonesia. Well,
now, what language do they speak?
Oh, they speak Indonesian.
Okay.
Yeah, it is like a lingua franca, they call it. It originates from Malay, and Indonesia itself. It has more than 600 like ethnic groups, which has its own language. So Indonesian is like lingua franca, or like a national kind of language, or that can.
I understand.
Yeah.
Kind of like Hindi is in India, because they got like 26 different dialects, but they're really similar.
Right. Yeah. Kind of thing. So yeah, and but more and more people can speak English very well, better than me, because English curriculum is now being taught in like English subjects being taught since early age, even like preschool age. So yeah, they're trying to become like a global like citizen kind of thing. Learn English, learn Chinese too, Japanese, so on.
Okay, so it's part of the curriculum, and you're noticing somewhat of a class divide. And I think of the biggest perpetrators of that is China. How China, as they've become very developed, with capitalism, it is a very distinct class divide between the upper class and the lower class.
The class in China, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know much about that. Yeah, hopefully someday I'll visit China and see, I'll observe this kind of thing. But yeah, maybe that happened. Yeah, maybe that happened because they have more than billion like citizens, like and the affluent is probably just less than 1%, and
Mhm.
we see like the divide or like real difference between like these elite and the ordinary citizen, if you will, right? So yeah, interesting. Yes, yeah.
So Indonesia, I guess if you could explain it to people, how is I imagine there's people in the cities. There's those that want to be more westernized, but at the same time, you may not have to go that far before you see people walking barefoot, hauling carts down the road.
Right.
Or what's the main transportation?
Yeah, it depends. In urban areas like cities, they have train, bus, and also MRT, like mass rapid transit. It's like underground, like train.
Okay.
Yeah, like it's kind of new thing, and it's an archipelagic country, lots of islands, more than 13,000 islands. So you have to use airplane or ship, but it takes a while if you want to use like ship. It takes for maybe a week from eastern Indonesia to reach the western part of Indonesia. So it's like a United States. It's so big too. The difference between these two countries is US is like a mainland and Indonesia is an archipelagic country. The population is big too, almost 300 million people. So big economy if people want to invest or do something in there. Yeah, lots of opportunities if you want to invest sometime in the future. So yeah, in terms of population, it's pretty big. It's pretty diverse too. Like I said before, more than 600 ethnic groups or dialects, and yeah, and lots of issues, of course. Yeah.
Is there like little monkeys that will raid your food and stuff like in Sri Lanka, or is that just
Yeah, that's in Bali. I visited Bali twice, and we visited like this local temple in there. When we like ate something, they tried to grab like our food, which is so interesting. Well, that makes sense because we were in their territory, so they grab our food. Hey, you guys, you should give us something, right? You visit our place, you didn't say hi, you just come to our place and you eat. And I was hungry, I took your food. So
Yep.
it was funny, but they are super cute. They are super cute. Like these monkeys are super cute.
Yeah, they are, and yeah, that reminds me of like it's kind of like any animal. If even like the little chipmunks or squirrels, if you're too kind to them and they sense that that they see humans as a weaker animal with food that they can bully and take.
That's it. Yeah, well put. Yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah, and so tell me about Java.
Okay, yeah.
So is Java part of Indonesia?
Java is one of the biggest or main islands in Indonesia and the densest island. I will say more than 200 million people live in Java.
That's a lot of
That
people.
is a lot. That is a lot. Yeah, a lot of people live in there. And so yeah, and what I want to say. So yeah, it's super.
What kind of government structure is Indonesia? Do they have a monarchy, or what sort of?
Yeah, they used to. So before independence, Indonesia consisted of, well, not Indonesia at that time, because lots of kingdoms, and it was kind of colonized by Dutch, and that was the thing that united like these small kingdoms. They met, they talk, they decide to build a nation, and so Indonesia is a democratic country like the United States too, even though there are some many things that need to be done to be a completely democratic country. And but the difference is Indonesia is not using federal system. Indonesia is using local autonomy or decentralization system, meaning that um, some responsibilities are still run or managed by central government, and some other responsibilities are run or managed by local government. So Indonesia, I will say, is in between the United States and China. It's not completely centralized, but it's not federal at the same time. So it's in the middle. So if you wanna look at Indonesia, is half China or half America. Is that interesting?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, and America's not perfect either. I mean, there's all sorts of.
Yeah.
So, how many provinces is there, or do they call them provinces? What do they call
Provinces?
Yeah,
It's like states, right? Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, now they have 34. Yeah, I have to update again because they try to like add one more, add another one. This is a kind of local politics. You know, if you have new province or new regions,
them?
you will have ability to manage your own resources. So it is a political kind of thing. People
Yeah.
constantly want to create a new province, so they will have power to manage their own resources. So that is the interesting kind of dynamic right now.
Yeah, yep. That's kind of, and I bet that goes along political lines too. Like people say, "Oh, we need to divide Washington State," or something like that. I could
Yep.
see that. So, so there's 31 provinces,
Mm-hmm.
and
More or less, yep.
okay, and how big is? And so Java is the big island.
One of the biggest one. There are Sumatra, another one. Yeah, some other like Sumatra, Borneo, or Kalimantan, where palm oil
Mm-hmm.
like mainly like located, and Sulawesi, where I'm from. When you see Indonesia, there is like a letter K. So I'm from there, and Papua. Papua is also big, but Java is the densest one. Yeah, lots of people live in there, and when they have like general election, people are waiting for the result of the election from Java because they are the main like key.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's like, oh, this is the main like.
Yeah, I understand
Yeah.
that. They're the main body, and then what they say goes, even though everybody out in the rural areas doesn't agree with them. So, do you have a so the island you're from? How big of an island is that?
Um, hmm. It's maybe it's like Java too. It's big too, actually. Um, but since Java has the capital city, or the capital city of Indonesia is located in Java, it kind of rules everything in the country, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the majority of the ethnic group in Indonesia is also in live in Java, or we call them Javanese,
Mm-hmm.
right? They are the 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 dominant one. So yeah, there are some tensions too, but so far it's well managed because people use like they call it like musyawara, or it's like like having conversation, because when we talk, we have conversation, we can solve problems, right? So yeah, instead of going to the court, usually people like solve problems using like this kind of mechanism, talk or having conversation, and we can solve any problem and things like that. Yeah. So it's as big as Java, but the population is not as many.
I would imagine that Indonesia would be very diverse because it's so separated. It's an archipelagical nation, you said.
Exactly. Yeah, it is very diverse, linguistically diverse, religiously diverse too. The majority of Indonesian people are Muslims, maybe 89%, almost 90%. Some Christians, some Catholics, some Hindus, especially in Bali. The majority of them are Hindus, and Buddhists as well, and lots of like local traditional like beliefs as well, like animism, things like that. Um,
Gotcha. So, what is the main food dish?
oh, that is interesting. Yeah, I think the most popular one is beef curry. It's like Indian kind of cuisine too. People used to people use like beef. They cook the beef and then mix it with coconut milk, coconut cream, and some other like small ingredients. Lots of them. That's why it's so like delicious. But yeah, Indonesians love sweets. That's why many people got diabetic.
Yeah.
But not many people got cancer because, as far as I know, people love turmeric. And as far as I know, people told me, a friend of mine, turmeric can prevent like cancer, or it's like a main source of antioxidant or things like that. I can't.
Thrometic?
Turmeric.
Oh, turmeric.
Turmeric.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's got
Because the
amazing
food they use turmeric a lot in the food. So yeah. So less cancer. Well, not many cancer cases in Indonesia, but when you see the data, the diabetes, heart disease, wow, that's a lot.
Well, what about because I know that the opioid epidemic is a big thing here. What about in Indonesia?
Oh, I mean the drugs kind of things, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but people are dying of fentanyl. Is fentanyl an issue?
It is interesting. I don't know much about it, but as far as I know, maybe there are some young people also suffer this kind of things. But the government really control like the distribution of these drugs only for like medical purposes. So it is quite well like managed. It's not like I don't know here. Maybe it is legal for people to buy in any like stores or things like that. It's illegal in there, so they control that. And yeah, not so many cases. Not many cases. Maybe there are some youth who have access to the black market maybe, and they are quite rich. It's not like the homeless or unsheltered people like here. They have like access to these stuffs easily. Right there, you have to be rich enough to buy these things.
Yeah, you're right, and they're isolated. I mean, it's just may just be a unique American thing because of our opioid thing. It was something I was mining through. I was mining through accidental drug deaths, and I noticed if you're a 55-year-old male, you're more likely to die of an overdose than a 20-year-old male.
Interesting.
Yeah, I got the whole thing. I'm writing up an article, which brings up another good point. You've written articles. Tell me about your papers, your studies, and do you send them through a peer review process? How is that? And tell me about your experience with that.
Yeah, I published my first peer-reviewed journal article 2 years ago in the Anthropological quarterly. It is a kind of like top anthropology journals, and the review was interesting, and I enjoyed it. It is lots of works, for me to do to revise like my draft. But I enjoyed that process so much, and it's about neoliberal environmentalism in Indonesia, and it is interesting because local community, we usually, or many people usually, see them as a community with subsistence economic system, right? But recently, since we are living in a globalized world, or in globalization, more and more local communities are interested in these kind of things like investments or capital accumulation. And the place where I did my like field work or my ethnographic work is also aiming to use this product and sell this product later and grow these local small scale community to become something else in the future. It's like corporation. So there is like a neoliberal a desire in there too. They call their work as an environmentally friendly work, but at the same time there is also a capitalistic or neoliberal kind of value or initiative or motive in there too, which is so interesting. Which is so interesting.
Cool.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that I will be able to publish some more like works in the future.
So how difficult was the peer review process? Did they throw it back at you a few times like, no, this isn't good? Or did you have an easy time with your peers?
Yeah, it was I feel like I enjoyed it, even though it was it took time and energy, because I have to add some more information and make my argument clear, show more evidence, and add more like references or literature to support my argument and evidence. So this is the thing that people are doing in academia, and it took for about 1.5 and almost like 2 years to publish like this work. So yeah, if you're super interested in academia, you will face like this kind of thing, and it takes time. Should be patient. Have to read like more things, because the reviewers will ask you to, you have to add like these new books right here, just published like a year ago or 2 months ago. Check that out. And also, you have to include or incorporate like these journal articles 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I have 5 for you to include in there. So we have to read that and then incorporate into. Well, we can reject like the reviewer's advice if needed, but I think most of the times the author will just deal with like the reviewers, because lots of things the reviewers say or suggest are very, very useful.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, based on my like experience, I tried to do my best to incorporate like their suggestions.
So how do you get like a peer review? So I take it would be, if you're not in academia, it's going to be impossible to do to get a peer review unless you collaborate with a team, and then
Exactly.
you're making a piece of media. But that's kind of what you're doing, is you're making a piece of media that's going to go as content for the Anthropological Journal.
Right.
And so at what point could you just say, well, I guess who signs off in it? Who's I guess the editor at the Anthropological Journal,
Right.
and so I guess he's looking at it and he's saying, okay, it was reviewed by all these people.
Oh yeah, it should
And
be peer review, blind review, because they shouldn't know your name, and you as an author, you shouldn't know their names to maintain the objectivity, because lots of conflict of interest. Because if we know someone, we might, you know, we might, like give them, okay, oh, this is good, no need to do review, right? You know what I
Mhm.
mean, right? But if it is blind review, you treat it like seriously, like a new, like, thing that you need to maybe criticize or give suggestions, like, seriously. So yeah, that's why we need like blind review to make it like as objective as possible, so that when it is published, it is gonna
Yeah.
make an impact or something like that. Yeah. And I hope in the future I will be able to work with my students as well. I'm still talking about the possibility of including like my students in the publication, because they need to, if they are interested in, continuing um, to, do master or PhD. This is the thing they need to get involved as well. So yeah, I'm open a possibility to also collaborate with them.
So how do you get a study started?
The study of like what, like study.
Like any study. So, like, say you wanted to do one on some sort of passion project about
Like
how.
the nickel thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like your next passion project. How would you get that study started?
Yeah, I start with reading things. Um, I watch news as well. I read journal articles as well, and I feel like many people, scholars, journalists, even ordinary citizens, talk about electric car, nickel, lithium, and lithium is soon be mined in Indonesia too, probably in my hometown too. Yeah. And so it sparks like my interest. Wow, this is really interesting. And at the same time, when I visited my hometown, people talk about that as well. Wow, new companies are going to invest in this place, in that place, another place. And after 5 years, I see, wow, lots of, environmental issues in there, social issues too, um, economic issues too. Well, this is a story. I should do something. I should study it. This is a thing that need our attention to, because we scientists or scholars, we start from a problem. If there is a problem, then we need to study it, and hopefully later our publication, our work, our report will help, kind of solve or address the problem. It's not gonna be completely solve the problem, because it needs also other, groups of people, parties, to also get involved in solving of the problem, right? We're just trying to remind people, hey, this is a problem, it needs to get fixed. I can get involved, or you guys can solve the problem, because that is affect your area or your hometown or something like that. So I feel there is a responsibility too from me, because I am an anthropologist. Like I said before, we have a commitment with our local community to give back to them, because what we are right now because of them too. So I serve for my dissertation. Now I still collaborate with them. I give any resources that they want from me. I serve as a reviewer for a journal. They publish a journal um, uh, uh, articles too, so I help them to review like these drafts for them. And if they need anything for me, advice or any resources, like I said before, I will would love to help them. So again, part of our commitment as a social scientist, anthropologist especially, is to give back to our community. and yeah, we're nobody without them.
Mm-hmm.
Our work is shaped by them. So
Do you publish your papers in the language in Indonesian?
oh, no, it's in English because what I'm trying to do is show like the world, like this is the thing that need our attention to,
Mm-hmm.
and English is like a global kind of, you know, uh,
Yeah,
language, right? Yeah,
it's a commerce language.
yeah, commerce language or global kind of language. People all over the world, if they wanna know what happens in certain parts of the world, English is the medium.
I just think like so yeah, so it's kind of like India. If you did it in English,
Right.
it doesn't matter. It'll work. I was just thinking like, would you have more reach if you did it bilingual? Did
Oh.
two papers, one in Indonesian, one in English.
Oh yeah, that would be wonderful. Yeah, hopefully in the future we'll have that one. But for the journals, national journal and local journals in Indonesia, they do it in Indonesian language. So
Okay.
when I become a reviewer, it's an Indonesian language.
Okay.
Yeah, but my own work, I publish it in English.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I published one in Australian, a kind of glossy journal, semi-academic journal. But in the US, I published like in a kind of like top anthropology journal too. So it's completely in English. But the abstract is in Arabic, in Russian, and yeah.
Oh, you had foresight to get the abstracts transcribed.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So what made you think of that?
Oh no, the publisher
Oh, the publisher
makes
did
it
that.
available.
Oh,
Yeah.
gotcha. That's
They-
cool.
Yeah. So in a hope that it will gain like wider audience, right? So when they understand the abstract and they, okay, I need to read this one. Oh, it's in English. Okay, still need to read that. Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting kind of strategy.
Now, if you were to publish, are papers published in English? Do they have more credibility in Indonesia than those that are published in Indonesian?
Oh yeah.
So there's
so
like a perception about that kind of a thing.
yeah, they have to be accredited by like the national kind of journal accreditation board or something like that. They have to meet certain criteria. So, but this journal that I'm reviewing for is a new emerging kind of journal or publication. So it takes maybe 1 or 2 years, and when they have all of the documents, the requirements, they will get the accreditation. So what I'm doing is helping like these community interlocutors to get accreditation by becoming a reviewer, because they need a reviewer from many places. I'm in the US. They got like, wow, we got a reviewer from the US. Wow, this is really cool.
Yeah,
We'll get
you're a
accreditation,
great
sure.
reviewer to have. I would
Yeah.
figure some small Indonesian, or they're probably not small, but like an Indonesian publication,
Yeah.
like going to a prestigious U.S. university
Right.
professor
Right.
to review their stuff. Yeah, that's cool.
Something like that. So yeah,
That's
that kind of thing.
that's pretty cool. Now you mentioned Java and Sumatra, and it dawned on me. Oh yeah, it's on the equator. So is there bananas?
Yeah, lots of bananas in there. Like it's like a staple food too. People eat it every day. They fry banana. They make it. I can't remember the name of like this local food, but yeah, lots of banana, and it's a big like commodity too, domestic commodity in Indonesia, because people loves it, and animals loves it too. Like
Mhm.
lots of types of banana, like small one, they call it like bird banana because that is for bird, but people love it too. It tastes really good. It is sweet. but it is not like natural, like sweet thing. It's not. It's not like added sugar or something like that. No. So yeah, people love that. They have also like king banana, super like long, maybe I don't know, maybe 15, 20 centimeters because they use it centimeters. I can't. I don't know how to use it.
Okay, yeah, around 18 inches.
Yeah, maybe something like that. So yeah, lots of bananas in there.
What about chocolate?
Yeah. Chocolate. Lots of chocolate too. They produce local dark chocolate, milk chocolate as well, and but I believe they export the chocolate to the global north. I remember, if I'm not mistaken, in 1980s or 70s there was a cacao boom, and Indonesia, were the main exporters of like these commodity to the world. So in my hometown, people like get rich like easily at that time. They bought like car, new houses, and they go to use the money to enjoy life. Lots of them like got like become like a new rich during that time. Yeah. So see like the global kind of world connection, right? So the demand here from the global north, they really love chocolate. Indonesia produce lots of chocolate. They sell it, and they got like these revenue, but they don't know how. Wow, there's lots of money. What should we do? Okay, let's buy a car. Even though the road was not quite super,
wasn't made
yeah,
really,
but
they got that
they
car
got
because
that.
they got it. That's cool. It makes me think about. Well, okay, so it seems like the farmers there are not being exploited. But it seems at first they were good. But like Ivory Coast, for example, like Ivory Coast, same sort of commodities, everything around the equator, and then of course with the coffee, and like you mentioned with the certifiability of things, which is a whole nother world too, like of marketing and how much of that is real. But I know that people have talked about like the farmers, but it's like the farmers being taken advantage of. But that seems like the agriculture boom there was a good thing, and plenty of farmers were getting rich off of that. So that's a good thing. But and now, so that would be a struggle, right? You have bananas, coffee, and chocolate, and then you got the edible candle nut, and then there's the non-edible candle nut. But so like you said, the farmers they have to figure out, okay, what do I want?
Right.
Do I want money from bananas and chocolate?
Right.
Or do I want to cut out and have? And it would seem like it's a tough trade-off.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And they are super rational too. If they feel like mining is a good thing, they will sell like their land. They because when you know that your land has a large amount or of maybe nickel deposit, you cannot do anything without technology, right? So some of them, they rented it, they sell it, and when companies come with their like equipment, so on and so forth, and start to mine. So yeah, some of them, they are interested to become like a shareholder too. So it depends on the negotiation or compensation scheme actually. So yeah, it's super complicated because because some people said that, wow, nickel, wow, it's a blessing, but at the same time it can be a curse to environmental degradation will impact like the health of the local population sooner or later.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's gonna be blessing for 10 years or so. Afterwards, it's gonna be a curse, right? So yeah,
Yeah. So tell me about the the garbage situation. So you said that there is a lot of trash. So the Indonesia struggles with
the
um,
pollution, things like that. Yeah. Um, so people are still, many people are still dumping things in the backyard, in the river, in the ocean. Companies too, even though there are some regulations to ensure or make sure that they have to, um, put their waste, chemical waste, or they have to maybe like burn it in incinerator. But there are still some parts of it goes to the river and the ocean, and ended up in the ocean. So the ocean become red. The water of the ocean water is become like red and brownish like kind of thing. So yeah, maybe regulation is not quite sophisticated yet. It needs to be improved,
mm-hmm.
and maybe more strict or stricter than before. And at the same times, this is the thing that I really encourage to companies who want to invest in Indonesia. They have an ethical, like business ethics thing that they need to learn or practice, because all the things that we do in the world, well, we love to produce cool products or commodities, but at the same time we have to make sure that we do it ethically as well. Um, ethically for the environment, ethically for local people, ethically for themselves too. They're gonna feel bad in the future if they do bad thing, and it's gonna cost them a lot if they have to pay the compensation in the future. It is something unexpected. Think about here in the U.S. when people or some companies are, maybe companies and government, maybe like in Flint, Michigan, few years ago, the water was so polluted, right? They wanted to secure, if I'm not mistaken, 2, 3, or $5 million. They hired a state manager or budget manager or things like that to secure the money, to save the money. But later, when Flint, Michigan water was so polluted, local communities asked for compensation. It cost them more than $1 million, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong. So this is the thing in economy. We often think about short-term
Mm-hmm.
gain or benefit, but it costs like a lot in the long run. And I suggest like any companies who want to invest in Indonesia or elsewhere, do not sacrifice like public health concern or issue that is super costly, super costly. Somebody or some institutions need to be responsible in the future. So think about that. So if they do good business ethics, good business practices, involve local communities, there are some rules that are obeyed by the companies, the government also improve like the regulations, everyone is gonna be happy.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So
Yeah, no, you bring up a good point. In Flint, Michigan, and I think about, like Flint, Michigan was a scandal.
yeah.
And that is going on wholesale all over the world. And you would think that people, as you were talking, it made me think how the countries I've been to, not all of them, but like in Iraq and
Right.
whatnot. Like they'll pile up their trash, and they got trash everywhere. And people get associated with that as normal.
Right.
And so you probably got people in Indonesia that are seeing this sort of pollution, but they associate it as it's normal.
It's normal,
because
right.
every day as a kid, they
Exactly like
walked
that.
by
Yeah.
trash.
Yes.
And they don't, and then as opposed to taking an outsider well, you being there, going to the outside, and then going back and saying, no, this isn't normal.
Right.
You shouldn't be walking by all this trash. Like, and this isn't hard to fix.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just a matter of, and it's an anthropological issue.
Right.
People are they're conditioned to the garbage.
Right. Yeah. That's a really good point, and I also learned a lot from my study, in academia in Indonesia, in Australia. I did my master in Australia, and also here in the States. I learned a lot from scholars, my teachers, my interaction with many people right here. And then when I went back to Indonesia, I see things, wow, really, change like my perspective to see like how people deal with daily problems in there. There are some things that I feel like, oh, it needs to be changed. And I really value my education in academia, both in Indonesia and overseas. Yep. And hopefully this knowledge will help, to create like a better like future for people, especially in Indonesia. Like,
which brings up a good point. What's the biggest information? How do people get their information in Indonesia?
Oh, that's a good question. It used to be from mainstream media, but today social media is so powerful.
Okay, all right. So
Yeah, everything got viralized easily. So lots of like public issues are solved or are made visible by social media, and then people, government or any institutions that feel like, wow, this is our problem. They do care and they want to like solve the problem. So thanks to social media, it really revolutionized public decision making recently. If without social media, probably mainstream media could not like really make an impact. People are on Twitter right now in Indonesia, on Facebook. It's constantly, you will see these in your timeline. This is an issue. What institutions are affected by this? Is it the government? Is it the corporations? And they're gonna be like roasted by citizens. So if they want to maintain their image, their good image, they have to address the problem. They have to deal with these voices from social media. They have to like solve the problem. What is the problem? Pollution right here. Okay, we need to address this issue. So yeah, citizens are so noisy in Indonesia today. One of the noisiest citizens.
That's good. That seems like there's a lot of hope for using social media to get the idea that, hey, this isn't right. Like you could even do that. You could like make videos of compare and contrast, like, hey, this is what it should look like, this is not right. And put it in the language. But then again, so they're using Facebook, they're using Twitter. What else are they using? Are they using TikTok?
Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah, TikTok too. Wow,
Okay.
TikTok is super like popular in Indonesia. I'm not on TikTok, but some of my friends, they were on TikTok. They love to make money too. Well,
Hey, cool.
Yeah. They use lots of channels to, make something visible. So when it grabs our attention, right? People, okay, this is a problem. Let's fix it.
Is there like one news media in Indonesia that says like, hey, this is the end all be all of media, and we should listen to us. Like the breaking news will come from
Right.
them.
Yeah. Not so many people are watching like media right now. Maybe it is similar to America too. It is divided, like politically divided, like CNN for like
Okay.
Democrat audience and Fox for like Republican audience. Maybe Indonesia, to some extent, is like that too. But I don't really follow like the mainstream media recently. But it was like 5 years ago. It was quite divided too. So um, people are they follow social media because that is the main source of information, even faster than mainstream media. People can upload things quickly, like in real time, and it will appear in your timeline, and that is going to be viralized and spiral
Mm-hmm.
quickly, quicker than mainstream media. So yeah, it's so interesting to see how social media plays like public decision, public policy like making in Indonesia recently.
Yeah, I've been watching it. How just on YouTube, how they'll come out, how social media backlash will change company policy real quick. So I could see that how social media backlash will eventually change people's policy. So in Indonesia, so you brought up that Hollywood is a thing. So
Mhm.
what do they have their own? Does Indonesia? I take it they must have their own shows.
Right. Yeah, they do have like what do you call it? Like house production things like that.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's not as big as like Hollywood or Indian Bollywood or Korean like pop culture thing. Um, I don't know the reason why Indonesians really enjoy like foreign like like pop cultures like Hollywood, Bollywood in India and Korea today and Japan too.
Mhm.
I don't know. Yeah, that is still a question that that haunts me to find out. M- hmm. Yeah, good question.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
You would
yeah.
think that with with media being able to be made,
Right.
I think I don't know. I think people have this standard in their head. You
Mhm.
know, this Hollywood standard, but it's like, yeah, you guys could probably make some really good productions yourselves, like in Indonesia. Like everything that you got going here or all over the world in Bollywood, just recreate it in Indonesian. So,
Yeah, and when one or two people enter the Hollywood, they were like, "Whoa! Finally, Indonesian made it to Hollywood."
oh, okay.
It's like wow! It's like whoa! It's like a super cool thing to achieve, It's so interesting.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's so interesting. So interesting. Yeah, I don't know why. It's a cultural thing that I've never thought of.
All
before.
right, kind of like when Bruce Lee
Yeah.
made it into Hollywood with his
The entire China
yeah.
was so happy, right?
yeah,
Yeah. Have you watched The Raid?
No, the Raid.
Yeah.
No.
So it was a Hollywood movie about fighting thing. So Indonesian like traditional martial art was introduced in that movie, and Indonesian was like, "Whoa! Finally, we're in Hollywood."
Good, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I love about martial arts, and it made me say lot. Say lot. Is that right? Say lot. No, it's
Silat. Yes,
Yeah,
silat.
it's
Yes,
it's an
Indonesian martial art. Yeah, it is slow, but you know how to defeat your target. But when we look at MMA, I think Sambo is the most powerful right now. I don't know if you agree with me or not. Like,
Sambo.
yeah, like these Khabib Nurmagomedov and those guys like Islam Makhachev now and Khamzat Chimaev, they're using same technique when they, grab you down. I don't know what kind of technique is that. Wow.
Oh, okay. You know what? something I trained Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Oh, wow.
But I've been a mixed martial artist.
You do?
My
Wow.
whole life. I don't cage fight or anything, but I am a mixed martial artist.
Cool.
But yeah, Sambo's cool. Now it's cool that you're watching the UFC, and what's cool about the UFC is it's international.
It's international. Yeah.
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 And you get to see all and that's what brings the diversity, because you see how these people fight, and or like someone like Conor McGregor, who comes out with his bravado and his Irish accent, and you think, yeah, this is worth watching. Now the history of the UFC. So from what I've studied, it all started back when the world got connected with fiber optic cable, and it got laid all over so the world got connected, and then that question was seriously asked: hey, what's the most superior martial art? And the Brazilians down in Brazil, they said, like, hey, or the Gracie family, and the rest is history. But they said, we think that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is the most superior martial art, and we're gonna host fights here. And everybody in the world who thinks that theirs is the best, they can do it. And they called it the Pride Fights, right? So they started having these fights down in Brazil, and then eventually got bought out by this guy named Dana White. Be sure to correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, people. But it got bought out by Dana White and turned into the UFC. But in the early days of the Pride Fights, it was like a circus. So you had big guys versus little guys, and everything went. And what they realized was, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is really superior. But they also realized that Muay Thai is superior too. And you need a standing and a ground. But Sambo's good. I mean, Sambo's a good ground martial art. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, if you grab people and you lock them, poof. Yeah, I see. Maybe it's not quite aesthetically cool, because you just basically, like, what do you call it?
Just grab them.
Grab them,
just
yeah.
grab them and hold them.
Yeah, Kung Fu is, we see the aesthetic thing when you kick and then fight, right? Or boxing too. That is an aesthetic thing. But Sambo, well, it is powerful, but I don't really see like the aesthetics kind of thing in that. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's super subjective, because when I watch Silat is like a dancing, right? It's like an art, combination of art and martial art, they call it. So yeah.
Yeah, they all have their own basis, and I've thought about this wholesale. Even something down, it was all about what could you do, what moves could you do to just beat up everybody at the time. And Saylat had to have had military practicality. So just knowing those techniques, because nobody else knew anything,
right,
put you leaps and bounds above everybody else in the village.
right.
And those who got to learn these techniques were in the military, and so if you joined the military, you would get educated in these techniques, and then have that sort of superpower over the populace and your enemies. So that's the practicality of all martial arts. But I think everyone should try jiu-jitsu. It's a lot of fun, man. There's no striking. You're not in minimal risk of brain damage. But yeah, it's a good time. There's a few Gonzaga professors that roll where I go.
Oh.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Should check that out.
Yeah. Yeah. Check it out sometime. Yeah. Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
Jiu-jitsu.
So, well, that's cool that you're watching these fights. And what are you thinking about when you watch a UFC fight?
Yeah. It's a big business. Like Conor McGregor, he has his own brand right now, like wine or I don't know, whiskey or
whiskey.
things like that. And
Yeah.
so yeah, Yeah, he knows how to, capitalize like things. And Habib, too, if I'm not mistaken, he's trying to build his own like MMA arena or something like that. So yeah, it's a big business, and it attracts people like globally to watch these because it's like a free fighting, like
Mhm.
almost like no rule. People enjoy like all styles of martial arts in there. You can bring your kung fu, taekwondo, karate,
Mm-hmm.
sambo, jiu-jitsu like you mentioned before. So yeah, and we see like who's
Yeah.
gonna be like the top one.
Styles make fights. If you check it out, and UFC goes all over the world, so you could Google Indonesian fighters.
Oh yeah,
There's all sorts of Indonesian fighters.
right. They do
and,
have one too. Yeah,
and it's cool to watch them.
right.
Yeah. And especially like Thailand,
Muay Thai.
Muay Thai. So
yeah.
watching how the Thai culture preserved Muay Thai and how their kids are. It's a different culture. I
Right.
don't know if you've been there, but
No.
yeah. When I went to Thailand, the boys they just the kids go to school because it's the law, and then they go home and they kick palm trees, and the boys will fight as part of their family's income. But it's a hard society. Like it's a warrior society.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, for family, for living, they make it like things for living. It's not like a hobby thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So no, Thailand's a different thing. Thailand, I think, has gotten progressively worse over time from what I've talked to. With,
Oh, you mean the politics one?
politics, and I think they almost had a revolution, or something. And I don't think, I don't know, how much of an issue would. Well, no, there's fundamental differences. Now I think about it. You said there is no drugs. Drugs
yeah.
are outlawed.
Yeah, small
Yeah.
things. Yeah.
Yeah, no, Thailand's totally different than what you're telling me.
Maybe because of the
About-
touristy
Yeah,
thing too.
It's
Right.
touristy. It's
Yeah.
kind of like Sin City for all the Western people to go there.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it's cool stuff. But that's been 2 hours. We've been talking for 2 hours. So do you got anything you want to send off to the world?
Yeah, that is cool. I enjoyed our conversation, and I feel like we covered a lot from human, non-human, technology, culture, pop culture, and martial arts.
Mm-hmm.
Super interesting topics. So, yeah, thank you so much for having me.
All right. Well, yeah, absolutely, man. Anytime. And next time, if you want to bring your guitar, and if you have a way to plug in, we can plug in the guitar right here to the mixer, and you can
Cool.
do some riffs if you wanted to. So, all right. Well, guys, it's been 2 hours. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Smash that bell for more updates. And goodbye.
Bye.
Oh,